She swiped right on the man with white hair, who would tell her 12 hours later that her body belonged to him. The Vampire King had waited 95 years for Isadora Winters. She had waited 5 years to feel anything at all. In less than a year, she would go from widow to immortal, from invisible to crowned, from a woman everyone pitied to a queen 1,000 vampires would bow before. And the ex-lover who tried to destroy her, chained and exiled, forced to watch it all. This is how one Tuesday night, swipe right became forever. This is how Isadora Winters stopped surviving and started living. The clock on Isadora's bedside table read 11:47 p.m. when she made the decision that would change everything. Not that she knew it then. On that particular Tuesday in late September, curled on her side in the small apartment that still smelled faintly of Michael's cologne 5 years gone, and still she couldn't bring herself to wash the last shirt, Isadora Winters believed she was simply tired of being alone. Her phone glowed in the darkness. The dating app Eva had downloaded for her 3 weeks ago sat unopened on her home screen, the little red notification bubble climbing higher each day. 47 matches Eva had reported that morning over coffee in the textile conservation lab where they both worked. 47 men who'd swiped right on Isadora's carefully chosen photo, the one from her cousin's wedding, where the light was good and her smile almost reached her eyes. Isadora hadn't opened the app once. Now lying in bed with the London rain drumming against her window and the anniversary of Michael's proposal weighing heavy in her chest, she tapped the icon. The interface flooded her screen with faces. Men her age, older, younger. Kind eyes, confident, smiles, carefully curated photos meant to convey success and stability, and just enough edge to be interesting. She swiped left, left, left. None of them made her feel anything except a hollow ache, that maybe this was a mistake, maybe 5 years wasn't enough, maybe she'd never be ready. Then his profile stopped her scroll cold. The photo was black and white. A man who appeared to be in his early 30s stood against floor-to-ceiling windows, city lights glittering behind him like fallen stars. But it wasn't the expensive suit or the penthouse view that made Isadora's breath catch. It was his hair, pure white. Not gray, not silver, but white as fresh snow falling past his shoulders in a way that should have looked strange on someone so young, but instead looked like something carved by an older world. Like mythology made flesh. His face was all sharp angles, jaw cut from marble, cheekbones that could slice. And his eyes, even in black and white, even through a phone screen, held something ancient, something that made Isadora think of storms gathering on horizons of weather no one predicted. The name read simply, Caspian. Bio older than I look, seeking the one I've waited for. Isadora's thumb hovered over the left arrow. This was absurd. He was probably a model, probably had 1,000 matches, probably used that mysterious bio on everyone. She should swipe left. She should close the app. She should remember that the last man she loved was dead and loving again felt like betrayal. Her thumb moved right. The screen exploded with light. Match it proclaimed in cheerful pink letters that felt inappropriately bright for what was happening in Isadora's chest, something cracking open, something she'd kept sealed for half a decade. Before she could close the app, a message appeared. Caspian. I've been waiting for you, Isadora. She stared at the words, the confidence of them, the certainty. Her fingers trembled as she typed. Isadora. That's very confident. Do you say that to everyone? The response came immediately, as if he'd been holding his phone watching for her reply. Caspian, only to the one whose name I've known for a very long time. Isadora sat up in bed. The rational part of her brain, the part that had survived Michael's death, rebuilt her life from ash, learned to function in a world without him, screamed that this was a line, a smooth, well-practiced line. But something else stirred beneath her ribs, something that had been dormant so long she'd forgotten what it felt like. Curiosity. Isadora. That's either very romantic or very creepy. I haven't decided which. Caspian. Let me buy you dinner Friday. You can decide then. Isadora. You don't waste time. Caspian. I've wasted enough already. There was something in those 4 words. A weight. A history she couldn't see but could feel pressing through the screen. Isadora Friday. Where Caspian? I'll send a car. Trust me. She shouldn't. She didn't know him. This was exactly the kind of thing Eva would tell her was dangerous, the kind of thing true crime podcasts warned against. Isadora, I'll trust you with dinner. We'll see about the rest. Caspian. That's all I ask. Isadora set her phone down. Her hands were shaking. She felt electric, alive, terrified. She felt like she'd just stepped off a cliff without checking how far the fall would be. Outside, the rain continued. Inside, for the first time in 5 years, Isadora Winters felt something other than grief. She didn't sleep that night, but for once it wasn't because of nightmares. Friday arrived the way all significant days arrive, too fast and not fast enough at the same time. Isadora stood in front of her closet at 6 p.m. Eva perched on her bed like a general surveying troops. "The blue dress," Eva declared, pointing at a wrap dress Isadora hadn't worn since before Michael. "It makes your eyes look like sea glass." "That's too much." Isadora pulled out a simple black dress. "This is just dinner." Eva leveled her with a look. "Issa, the man sent a car, not an Uber, an actual car with an actual driver who texted you the license plate and a photo ID. This is not just dinner." "You're being dramatic." "I'm being realistic." Eva stood pulling the blue dress from its hanger with the decisiveness of someone who'd known Isadora for 7 years and recognized evasion when she saw it. "You haven't been on a date since Michael. You're terrified. Wear something that makes you feel beautiful. You can always leave if he's terrible." Isadora took the dress. The fabric was soft between her fingers. She remembered buying it, remembered Michael's face when she'd worn it to his company dinner, remembered how he'd whispered in her ear that she was the most beautiful woman in the room. "I don't know if I can do this," she said quietly. Eva's expression softened. She crossed the small bedroom and took Isadora's hands. "You don't have to. You can text him right now and cancel. You can delete the app. You can spend Friday night here with me and terrible wine, and we'll watch something with explosions." But, but you swiped right for a reason." Eva squeezed her hands. "Michael would want you to be happy, Issa. He loved you too much to want you frozen at 26 forever." Isadora's throat tightened. "What if I can't love anyone the way I loved him?" "Then you find a different way to love." Eva smiled. "Now put on the dress before your mystery man's driver calls wondering where you are." 40 minutes later, Isadora stood on the street corner, texted in Caspian's message wearing the blue dress and heels that made her calves ache in makeup Eva had applied with professional precision. The car that pulled up was a Maybach, black windows tinted dark as oil. The driver stepped out, older gentleman, kind face, professional smile. "Ms. Winters, Mr. Nightshade sent me." Nightshade. So that was his last name. Caspian Nightshade. It sounded like something from a Gothic novel. The driver opened the door. Isadora slid into leather seats that probably cost more than her monthly rent. The interior smelled of cedar and something darker, something she had no name for yet. Her phone buzzed. "Caspian. The driver will bring you to me. I promise you're safe." Isadora. Promising someone they're safe is exactly what someone dangerous would say. "Caspian. You're right. Let me rephrase. I will keep you safe. Whether I'm dangerous remains to be seen." Isadora smiled despite her nerves. The car moved through London streets slick with recent rain. Streetlights blurred past. They drove for 20 minutes, then 30, leaving her familiar neighborhood behind. Isadora watched the buildings grow taller, more expensive. They entered a part of the city she recognized from magazines, from articles about billionaires and penthouses, and lives so far removed from her textile lab and small apartment that they might as well exist on different planets. The car stopped in front of a glass tower that seemed to scrape clouds. The driver opened her door. 42nd floor, Mr. Nightshade is expecting you." The elevator was all mirrors and soft lighting. Isadora watched her reflection multiply into infinity as she rose, her heart climbing with each floor. 35, 38, 40, 42. The doors opened directly into a penthouse. Not a hallway, not a lobby. The elevator opened into a space so vast, so carefully designed, that Isadora stood frozen on the threshold trying to process what she was seeing. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped the entire space. London sprawled below like a circuit board of light. The decor was minimalist but clearly expensive. Dark woods, leather furniture, abstract art that was probably worth more than her education. Everything precise, everything intentional. And standing by the window's silhouette sharp against the city lights was Caspian Nightshade. He turned. The photo hadn't lied, but it hadn't prepared her either. In person, Caspian was devastating. Tall, easily 6'2", and built with the kind of lean strength that came from something other than gyms. His white hair was pulled back, revealing the architecture of his face in full detail. Sharp jaw, high cheekbones, mouth carved with precision, but his eyes. Even from across the room, even in the low lighting, his eyes were impossible. Pale gray that held silver in certain angles. The kind of gray that belonged to winter storms and old steel and things that had seen centuries. He wore a black suit, no tie-top button undone, sophisticated and slightly dangerous all at once. He smiled. It transformed his face from severe to something that made Isadora's pulse forget its rhythm. Isadora. His voice was low, the kind of low that vibrated in the sternum. British accent with something underneath, something old, that didn't quite belong to any region she could place. You're even more beautiful than your photo suggested. She stepped into the penthouse. The elevator closed behind her with a quiet hiss that felt very final. You have good lighting, she said, because her brain had apparently decided humor was the only defense against whatever this feeling was. This pull, this recognition, this sense that she'd just walked into something much larger than a first date. His smile widened. I'll tell my interior designer you approve. This entire floor is yours. Yes, not apologetic, not boastful, simply factual. What do you do, Caspian Nightshade? She moved further into the space, hyper-aware of his eyes tracking her movement. Investments, properties. I've had time to accumulate. Time, I'm older than I look. That strange smile again, like he was enjoying a private joke. Come, dinner's ready. He gestured to a dining table set for two. Candles flickered. Wine breathed in a crystal decanter. The setup was intimate without being presumptuous chairs at an angle, rather than across from each other, close enough for conversation, far enough for space. Caspian pulled out her chair. The gesture should have felt old-fashioned, but instead it felt natural. Like he'd been opening chairs for women for so long, it was simply muscle memory. The first course appeared, brought by a silent staff member who materialized and vanished like a ghost. Scallops perfectly seared, arranged like art. You live here alone? Isadora asked. I do. Caspian swirled his wine but didn't drink. Loneliness is, he paused, searching for words, a choice I've made for longer than I care to admit. Past tense, his gray eyes fixed on her. I'm hoping so. The intensity of his gaze should have been uncomfortable. Instead, Isadora felt seen, truly seen. For the first time since Michael's funeral, she felt like someone was looking at her and perceiving not the widow, not the woman to be pitied, but Isadora herself. They talked. About her work, the 18th century brocade she was restoring, the patience required the satisfaction of saving beautiful things from time. About his business, vague but clearly successful investments, spanning centuries worth of property appreciation. About London, about art, about books they'd both loved, and movies that made them cry, and the particular loneliness of eating dinner alone night after night. The conversation flowed. Hours passed like minutes. The wine stayed full in Caspian's glass, Isadora noticed. He never drank, just swirled it, inhaled it, set it down. You're not drinking, she observed. I don't process alcohol well. He smiled. I enjoy the ritual more than the effect. That's refreshingly honest. I find dishonesty exhausting. His expression shifted to something more serious. Isadora, there have been things I need to tell you, things that will sound impossible. Her pulse quickened. Should I be worried? That depends on how you define worry. He leaned back in his chair, studying her. But not tonight. Tonight, I just want to know you. You said in your message you'd known my name for a long time. I did. Explain that. Not yet. He stood, extending his hand. Dance with me first. There's no music. He pulled out his phone. A moment later, something slow and instrumental filled the penthouse. Caspian held out his hand. Isadora took it. His palm was cool against hers. Not cold, but cooler than it should be. He pulled her close, respectful distance, one hand at her waist, the other holding hers. They moved. He led with the confidence of someone who'd been dancing for decades. Smooth, practiced, effortless. Isadora let herself follow, let herself lean into his chest, let herself forget for just a moment that she was a widow on a first date with a stranger who owned an entire floor 42 stories above London. You're a good dancer, she murmured. I've had practice. How old are you really? Much older than I look. She pulled back to meet his eyes. You keep saying that. Because it's true. He tucked a strand of her brown hair behind her ear. The gesture was tender, deliberate. Isadora, I need you to know something. Whatever happens after tonight, whatever I tell you, whatever you learn about me. He paused. His thumb traced her cheekbone. You can walk away at any time. I will never force you, never trap you. You have complete autonomy. Do you understand? The seriousness in his voice made her shiver. You're scaring me a little. Good. You should be cautious. But his hand was gentle on her face. Just not tonight. The song ended. They stood there, too close, breathing each other's air. I should go, Isidore whispered. Should you? I don't make decisions like this. Like what? She looked at him. Really looked. At the impossible white hair and the storm gray eyes and the face that was too beautiful, too ageless, too everything. Like staying, she admitted. His expression transformed. Hope and hunger and something that looked like relief. Stay, he said simply. And Isadora Winters, who hadn't let anyone close in 5 years, who'd wrapped herself in grief like armor, who'd convinced herself she was done with wanting and being wanted, she stayed. Morning arrived with pale gold light flooding the penthouse. Isadora woke slowly, consciousness returning in layers, silk sheets, the smell of cedar, and something darker. A warmth pressed against her back that wasn't a blanket. Her eyes open. The ceiling above her was not her ceiling. The windows showed a view of London she'd only seen in films. And the arm draped over her waist was cool against her skin, solid, belonging to a man she'd met 12 hours ago. Caspian nightshade. Memory flooded back. The dancing, the conversation that stretched past midnight. The way he'd kissed her, careful at first, then desperate, like he was a man dying of thirst and she was water. The bedroom, the tenderness, the way he'd looked at her like she was something precious, something he'd been searching for across centuries. Isadora turned carefully. Caspian was already awake. He lay on his side, head propped on one arm, watching her with those impossible gray eyes. His white hair fell across the pillow like spilled moonlight. He didn't smile. His expression was too serious for that, too weighted. Good morning, Isadora said. Her voice came out rougher than intended. Good morning, Isadora Winters. Something in his tone made her pulse spike. Not fear exactly, but awareness. The sense that whatever happened next would matter. I need to tell you something, Caspian said. She pulled the sheet higher. Okay, and you're not going to believe me. Try me. He was quiet for a long moment. His eyes never left her face, like he was memorizing every detail. Then he said, calm as commenting on weather, your body is mine until you bear my child. Isadora blinked. Once. Twice. Then she laughed. A surprised, slightly hysterical sound. Excuse me. I phrased that badly. He sat up, running a hand through his hair. The sheet pulled at his waist, revealing the carved planes of his chest. Let me start again. I'm a vampire. I've been alive for 95 years, and I've been searching for you specifically for longer than you've been breathing. The laughter died in Isadora's throat. She stared at him, waited for the punchline, for the smile that would indicate this was some bizarre joke. His expression remained completely serious. A vampire, she repeated slowly. Yes. You're telling me you're a vampire? I am. Isadora sat up, clutching the sheet to her chest. Her mind raced. This was crazy. He was crazy. She needed to leave, except his skin had been cool all night, except she'd never seen him drink wine, except there was something about him, something indefinably old that she'd felt from the first photo. Prove it, she heard herself say. Caspian's eyebrows rose. You want proof? If you're going to make insane claims, yes. He moved with a speed that shouldn't have been possible. 1 second he was on the bed. The next he stood across the room by the windows, then back, then to the door, then beside her again. All in the space of a heartbeat, Isadora's breath caught. Speed, Caspian said. Strength. He picked up the solid wood bedside table with one hand like it weighed nothing. And these, he opened his mouth, his canines extended, sharp and very real. Isadora should have screamed, should have run, should have done anything except sit there frozen, staring at proof that everything she thought she knew about the world was wrong. Vampires, she whispered. Yes, real vampires. Very real. Her brain tried to process this, failed, tried again. The Vitamix in your kitchen. He blinked clearly, not expecting that response. What? You have a Vitamix. I saw it when I got water last night. Do vampires? She started laughing again. Couldn't help it. Do vampires make smoothies? Something shifted in Caspian's face. His expression cracked into a surprised smile, then a grin, then actual laughter, low and rusty, like he didn't do it often. Yes, he said. I enjoy green smoothies. Blood is nutritionally limited. Oh my God. Isadora pressed her hands to her face. I slept with a vampire who drinks green smoothies. For what it's worth, that's not typically how people react. How do they usually react? Screaming, terror, occasionally fainting. She lowered her hands. I should be terrified. Yes, you should. He moved back to the bed slowly this time, sat on the edge. I told you there were things that would sound impossible. You buried the lead a bit Caspian. I know. He ran a hand through his hair, again a gesture she was learning meant he was uncertain, vulnerable. That first thing I said about your body, that came out wrong. Badly wrong. I don't own you, Isadora. I would never presume to own you. But, but I've been searching for you for 65 years. The weight of those words settled over the room. Why me? Her voice came out smaller than intended. Why specifically me? Caspian looked at her with something that might have been reverence. Because I know your name. I know you were married at 21 to Michael Winters. I know he died 5 years ago in a car accident on March 14th. I know you didn't leave your apartment for 4 months after. I know you're a textile conservator who works with the most delicate, irreplaceable fabrics in existence. I know you've been carrying his loss like a stone in your chest, and that every step you take is heavier for it. Isadora's throat tightened. How do you know all that? Because when you're immortal and looking for someone, you learn to search. His gray eyes held hers. I've watched humanity for 95 years. I've seen people survive impossible things. But I've never met anyone who survived what you survived and still possessed what you possess. What do I possess? A kindness. He said it simply. Real kindness. The structural kind that doesn't break under pressure. You could have become bitter, closed. Instead, you dedicated your life to saving beautiful things from time. He gestured to her hands. Do you know how rare that is? She looked down. Her hands were shaking. I need coffee, she said finally. And then you're going to explain everything. All of it. Vampires and searching and what you meant about my body and a child and all of it. I also have an espresso machine, Caspian said. Despite everything, the impossibility, the fear, the world tilting sideways, Isadora smiled. I knew I swiped right for a reason. She wrapped herself in a sheet and padded toward the kitchen. Behind her, she heard Caspian exhale long and shaky like a man who'd been holding his breath for decades and finally remembered how to breathe. Isadora Winters made coffee in a vampire's kitchen while London woke up 42 floors below. And somehow, impossibly, she wasn't running. Not yet. The espresso machine hissed and gurgled like something alive. Isadora watched dark liquid stream into a cup, her hands wrapped around the counter edge, knuckles white. Behind her, Caspian stood in the doorway, silent, waiting. She turned coffee in hand and looked at him properly in the morning light. The white hair, the too perfect face, the eyes that held weather. Talk, she said. So he did. Caspian told her about Edinburgh in 1930, about being 30 years old when a woman named Seraphine Croft found him bleeding in an alley after a bar fight, stupid young, angry at a world sliding toward war. About how Seraphine had looked at him with ancient eyes and said she recognized something in him that the world would waste if it was allowed to die with his body. About the turning, the pain, the rebirth, about 95 years of learning to coexist with immortality, learning to live in a world that changed constantly while he remained the same. The particular loneliness of permanence in a place built entirely on impermanence. He spoke for an hour. Isadora listened the way she'd always listened, completely with the whole of herself, the quality of absolute attention her mother had taught her and Michael had loved about her. When Caspian finished, the coffee had gone cold in her hands. Why me? She asked again. Really, why? He crossed the kitchen, stopped close enough that she could feel the coolness radiating from his skin. Because I've watched humanity for 65 years, he said quietly. I've seen people survive impossible loss and become bitter, become hard. You survived and remained kind. He paused, searching. That's the rarest thing I've ever found. I'm not special, Caspian. You are to me. The words hung between them like something fragile. Isadora set down her coffee. The thing you said, about a child. His jaw tightened. I said it badly, but yes, I've wanted a child for longer than I can explain. Not as legacy, not as continuation. I want to watch a small person discover the world. I've watched humanity for decades and never grown tired of it, the wonder of ordinary things newly seen. I want to be responsible for that, present for it. His gray eyes found hers, but only with you. Not as a condition, as a hope. Vampires can have children. Rarely, it requires, he hesitated, compatibility, connection, the right person. And you think I'm the right person based on what? A dating app one night, based on 5 years of searching. His voice roughened. Based on the fact that when you laugh, you sound like something I haven't heard in 40 years. Based on watching you walk into this penthouse last night and feeling for the first time in my entire existence like I'd come home. Isadora's breath caught. This is insane, she whispered. I know. I should leave. You should. I'm not going to. Something cracked open in Caspian's expression. Relief and hope and desperate gratitude all at once. Why bye? He asked. She looked at him, really looked, at the man who was a monster who made smoothies, who'd lived nearly a century and still didn't know how to talk about feelings without stumbling, who looked at her like she was the answer to a question he'd been asking for 65 years. Because I'm tired of being afraid, Isidore said. I spent 5 years afraid of loving again, afraid of losing again. And you're terrifying Caspian nightshade, but you're also the first person who's made me want to stop being afraid. He kissed her then, soft and careful and trembling with restraint. When they pulled apart, Isadora smiled. I'm keeping the coffee maker. You can have anything you want. I want answers, and breakfast, and probably therapy after this. Caspian laughed that rusty surprise sound. I can provide 2 of those things. The first month passed in a blur of revelation and wonder. Isadora learned that vampires didn't burn in sunlight, they just preferred darkness. That Caspian owned properties across 3 continents. That he had an assistant named Silas Blackwood who was aggressively competent and sent texts like, Your Majesty, the board meeting moved to 3 p.m. Also use more emojis when texting your girlfriend. You sound like a Victorian ghost. That last bit made Isadora laugh so hard she snorted coffee. She learned that Caspian's penthouse had a library filled with first editions. That he collected art from artists he'd known personally, some dead 100 years. That he couldn't cook to save his immortal life, but tried anyway because he liked the ritual of it. She learned that being with him felt like being seen, truly, completely seen. They had dinner 3 times a week, then 4. Then Isadora found herself staying over more nights than not, her toothbrush appearing in his bathroom without announcement, a drawer in his dresser mysteriously empty and waiting. Small things? Territory claimed in inches. Eva noticed immediately. You're glowing, she said one morning in the conservation lab, watching Isadora hum while repairing a tear in the 18th century brocade. I'm not glowing. You absolutely are. You look like someone who's having excellent... Eva. I'm just saying, Eva grinned. Mystery Vampire Man is clearly doing something right. Isadora paused her work. I told you he's not actually a vampire. Uh-huh. And I'm the Queen of England. Eva leaned against the work table. Issa, I don't care if he thinks he's a vampire or a werewolf or the Tooth Fairy. He makes you happy. That's all that matters. He does, Isadora admitted quietly. Make me happy. Good. Eva's expression softened. You deserve it. Michael would want you to be happy. The name landed like it always did, a stone in her chest, but smaller now, worn smooth by time. That night, Isadora found white peonies on her desk at the lab. No note, but she knew. She texted Caspian a photo. Isadora, mysterious flowers appeared. Any idea who sent them, Caspian? None whatsoever. Though I've heard white peonies require light misting on alternate days. Isadora. Very specific knowledge for someone uninvolved. Caspian. I'm a man of many talents. Isadora. Name 3. Caspian. Making you smile. Missing you when you're gone. Wanting you here always. Isadora stared at her phone. Her heart did something complicated. Isadora. That's very romantic for someone who leads with property claims. Caspian. I've grown considerably. Isadora. Your growth is noted and appreciated. Caspian. Come home. He'd said home. She packed her bag. Month 4 arrived with autumn settling over London like a gray blanket. Isadora stood in Caspian's library, their library now, she supposed, running her fingers along book spines. First edition Bronte, Shelley, Keats, authors Caspian had probably met. You're thinking very loudly, Caspian said from the doorway. She turned. He wore dark slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. Devastating and domestic all at once. Tell me about him, he said. Isadora didn't need to ask who. Michael. Yes, she moved to the window. London sprawled below, the lights beginning to flicker on as dusk fell. Why so? Because he was part of you, because grief doesn't disappear just because you found something new. Caspian crossed the room, stood beside her, because I want to know all of you, even the parts that hurt. Isadora's throat tightened. No one had asked. In 5 years, everyone had tiptoed around Michael's memory like it was something fragile, something that would shatter her if mentioned. He was kind, she said finally. That's the thing people underestimate about kindness. Real kindness, the structural kind built into bones. He was kind, effortlessly. She smiled small and sad. He made terrible jokes, burned everything he tried to cook, cried at documentaries about endangered birds, and he loved me so completely that I forgot I was ever anything other than beloved. Caspian listened without interrupting, the way only ancient things can listen completely, still without fidgeting, without preparing his next words. The day he died, Isadora continued, voice dropping. We fought, something stupid. I can't even remember what. He left for work without kissing me goodbye, and I stood at the window watching him go, thinking I'd apologize when he got home. She pressed her palm against the glass. I never got the chance. Isadora, I know what you're going to say. She cut him off gently, that it wasn't my fault. That one argument doesn't undo 5 years of love. Everyone said it. My therapist, Eva, my mother. She turned to look at him. But you know what no one said? What? That he knew. That whatever he took with him when he left that morning, it wasn't doubt. Caspian's expression cracked. He knew, Isadora. The way you love completely structurally in the bones that doesn't break from a morning's argument. He knew. Something in his certainty and the weight he gave those words broke open the things she'd been holding inside for 5 years. Isadora cried. Not the careful, controlled version she'd perfected for public consumption. The real version, messy and wordless and undignified. Caspian pulled her against his chest and held her. Said nothing. Was simply there, solid and cool and steady. When the tears finally stopped, Isadora pulled back. Her face was probably a disaster. She didn't care. I love you, she said. The words arrived before she'd decided to say them, but they felt true, solid. Caspian went completely still. The kind of still that comes from shock. What? I love you, she repeated. It's complicated and probably too fast and definitely insane given that you're a 95-year-old vampire and we met 2 months ago. But I love you. His hands came up to frame her face. I've loved you since you laughed in my kitchen at 7 a.m. making points about medieval property law while wearing my sheet-like armor. I've loved you since before that. Since the moment your profile appeared and I just knew you were the one I'd been searching for. He kissed her, deep and desperate and tender all at once. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Isadora smiled. We're ridiculous. Completely. I'm human, I'll age. You won't. The words hung heavy between them. Caspian's hands tightened on her face. Then I'll treasure every year, every line, every gray hair, every single mark time leaves on you. What about after, when I'm gone? Don't, his voice cracked. Please don't make me think about that yet. Caspian, I know the mathematics, he said roughly. I've lived long enough to understand impermanence. But asking me to accept losing you when I just found you is... He stopped, controlled something. I can't. Not yet. Isadora nodded. The conversation wasn't over. But it could wait. Outside, London darkened into night. Inside, two people who'd each survived impossible loss held on to each other and breathed. The summons arrived on a Tuesday. Isadora was at the lab when Caspian texted. Caspian, something's happened. Come home. Isadora, what's wrong, Caspian? Tell you when you're here, you're safe. But I need you. She made an excuse to Eva and left. The penthouse felt different when she arrived. Tense, like the air before lightning. Caspian stood by the windows with another man, tall, elegant, with dark hair threaded with silver and eyes like old gold. He radiated power the way Caspian did. Old power, dangerous. Isadora, Caspian said, this is Alaric Sterling. He's Vampire Council, the man finished. His voice was cultured British, centuries old. Pleasure to meet the human who's captured our king's attention. King. The word landed wrong. I'm not a king, Caspian said tightly. You hold the title whether you want it or not. Alaric turned his gold gaze on Isadora. You're aware of what he is, yes. And you're involved with him anyway. Obviously. Alaric's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Bold. I respect that. The almost smile faded. Unfortunately, respect doesn't change council law. Human vampire mate bonds are forbidden. Isadora felt ice slide down her spine. Forbidden. They weaken the bloodline, create complications. Alaric's eyes flicked to Caspian. You know this. You helped write these laws. 2 centuries ago, Caspian said. Times change. Laws don't. Alaric pulled a scroll from his jacket, actual parchment, sealed with wax. The council has voted. You must end this relationship within 6 months or face consequences. What consequences? Isadora asked. Loss of title, exile from vampire society, possible execution if you continue to defy us. The words were delivered calmly, like announcing the weather. Caspian moved between them, protective. That's not going to happen. Then end it. Alaric's expression held something almost like pity. She's human, Caspian. She'll age, die. You've survived loss before. You'll survive this. Get out. The council. Get out. Alaric sighed, left the scroll on the table. 6 months. I'm sorry, old friend, but this is how it has to be. He left. Silence crashed over the penthouse. Isadora picked up the scroll. Read it. Official council seal. 7 signatures. Very real. They can't do this, she said. They can. Caspian's voice was hollow. They're the governing body for all vampires in Europe. What they say is law. There has to be a way around it. There is. He looked at her. You could be turned. The word hung between them. Turned, Isadora repeated. Become a vampire. Yes. And then you'd be vampire. The mate bond would be legal, but he ran a hand through his white hair. You'd lose your humanity. Sunlight would hurt. Food would lose taste. You'd be frozen at 31 forever. And I can't make that choice for you. Isadora set down the scroll. Her hands were shaking. What if I want to? Caspian's head snapped up. What if I choose it? Isadora. I spent 5 years learning that nothing lasts forever, she said. That everyone I love will eventually leave or be taken. And now you're offering me forever. Actual forever. Why wouldn't I want that? Because you'd give up everything human. I'd gain you. He crossed to her, took her hands. This isn't a decision to make because you're scared of losing me. This is permanent, irreversible. I know. You need time to think. How much time do I have? 6 months before the council moves. Isadora nodded. Then I'll think, but Caspian, she squeezed his hands. I'm not afraid of forever. I'm afraid of running out of time. She spent 2 weeks researching. Eva helped without knowing why, bringing Isadora books on mythology, folklore, vampire legends across cultures. Isadora read everything, took notes, built a framework of understanding. One night, buried in a text from the 1600s, she found something that made her blood run cold. A family tree, ancient, carefully documented. The winner's bloodline traced back to Abraham Van Helsing. Hunter, vampire slayer, legendary. Isadora stared at the page until her vision blurred. She was descended from the most famous vampire hunter in history, and she was in love with a vampire. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so horrifying. She told Caspian that night. He listened, went very still, then said quietly, I know. You know what? I've known since before I swiped right. He met her eyes. Your bloodline is in vampire records. We track hunter families. Make sure they've disbanded. And you chose me anyway. I chose you because you didn't choose hunting. Your family line abandoned that path 3 generations ago. Your great-grandmother married an artist. Your grandmother was a teacher. Your mother runs a bookshop. He touched her face. You chose to preserve beautiful things, not destroy them. That's why I love you. Isadora exhaled. There's poetry in that, isn't there? Hunter falls for vampire. Terrible poetry, the kind that gets you banned from open mic night. She laughed despite everything. That night, she made her decision. I want the transformation, she told him. Not because I'm afraid, because I'm choosing. I choose you. I choose forever. I choose this. Caspian looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. We'll need help. The ritual is complex, dangerous. Who do we ask? Someone I trust completely. He pulled out his phone. Silas. Silas Blackwood arrived the next day. He was 32, handsome, in a sharp-dressed way with dark hair and eyes that shifted between brown and red depending on the light. Half-vampire, Caspian had explained. Human mother, vampire father. Walked in both worlds. He looked Isadora up and down. So you're the one making my boss act like a lovesick teenager. Guilty, Isadora said. Thank God, he's been insufferable for 90 years. Silas grinned. I approve. Let's make you immortal. The preparation took 3 days. Caspian explained the process. He would need to drain most of her blood, replace it with his own. The transformation would take hours, be agonizing. She might not survive. Cheerful, Isadora said. I need you to understand the risk. I do. Eva came over the night before. Isadora had told her everything vampire's transformation, all of it. Eva had listened, processed, then said, Okay, okay, Issa, I've watched you exist for 5 years, not love. Exist. Now you're living again. If becoming a vampire is what it takes to keep that light in your eyes. Eva hugged her tight. Then bite me too while you're at it. Eva, I'm kidding, mostly. She pulled back. Just promise me you'll still get coffee with me, even if it tastes like cardboard after. I promise, Mom. The ritual was set for midnight. Isadora spent the day in the penthouse. Nervous, excited, terrified. At 11 p.m., Caspian found her in the library. You can still change your mind, he said. I won't. Isadora. She kissed him. I love you. I choose this. Let's do it. They went to the bedroom. Silas had prepared everything, candles, ancient symbols drawn in something that looked like salt medical equipment, just in case. Isadora lay on the bed, Caspian beside her. Ready, he asked. Yes. He bit her wrist. The pain was sharp, then fading. She felt her blood leaving, felt weakness spreading. The room dimmed. Then Caspian's wrist pressed to her lips. Drink. She did. His blood tasted like copper and lightning and something ancient beyond naming. It burned down her throat, into her chest, through her veins. The transformation began. Fire, every cell igniting. Isadora screamed. Caspian held her. I'm here, stay with me. The bedroom door exploded inward. Through the haze of pain, Isadora saw her a woman. Beautiful, vampire. Red hair like blood, eyes full of rage. Octavia, Caspian snarled. The woman Octavia smiled. Hello, darling. Miss me. She moved with vampire speed, grabbed Isadora by the throat, lifted her off the bed. Weak little human, Octavia hissed. You think you can have him? He's mine. Always has been. Caspian roared. Attacked. They fought, blurs of motion crashing through furniture. Silas joined, trying to pull Octavia off. But Isadora was stuck mid-transformation. Neither human nor vampire. Dying. Caspian's blood warred with her human blood. Her body couldn't decide which to keep. She was going to die. No. Isadora forced herself to focus through the pain. Forced herself to drink more of Caspian's blood from where it dripped down her arm. The transformation surged. Violent. Painful. Complete. Power flooded her veins. Her eyes snapped open. The world came into focus, sharper, clearer. More, every sound distinct. Every scent layered. Every color vibrant. Octavia still had her hand around Isadora's throat. Isadora grabbed Octavia's wrist. Squeezed. The bone cracked. Octavia screamed. Released her. Stared in shock. You're vampire, Isadora finished. Her voice came out different. Stronger. And you're in my home. Leave. Something flickered in Octavia's eyes. Not fear, but calculation. She backed toward the broken door. This isn't over, she said. You have no idea what you've started. She vanished. Silence fell. Isadora stood in the wreckage of the bedroom. Her body felt different. Powerful. Alive in a way she'd never experienced. Caspian stared at her. You're alive. I'm more than alive. She looked at her hands, at the strength in them. The first wave of nausea hit. Silas caught her. Whoa, side effect. Your body's still adjusting. I feel strange. That's normal. Give it a few days. He helped her sit. You did great. Most transformations don't survive interruptions like that. Isadora looked at Caspian. Who was she? His expression darkened. Octavia Ravencroft, my ex-lover from 40 years ago. She seemed upset. She's been trying to get me back for decades. I've refused. He knelt beside her. She must have been watching. Waiting. She tried to kill me. She'll pay for that. Caspian. She attacked during your transformation. That's a death sentence under council law. But Isadora barely heard him. The nausea was getting worse. Different. Not sickness. Something else. Silas, she said, something's wrong. He frowned, pulled out medical equipment, checked her vitals. His expression changed. Oh. What? Caspian demanded. The transformation, it triggered something, or maybe... He looked between them. Isadora, you're pregnant. The words didn't make sense. What? Caspian whispered. Pregnant, with twins. Silas showed them the equipment at readout. 2 heartbeats, very faint, Very new. The ritual itself must have... He paused. Vampire transformations can catalyze conception in rare cases. The blood exchange, the magical energy. When compatibility is this strong, sometimes life finds a way. Isidore stared. Conceived during the transformation. It appears so. Just now, brand new. Twins, Caspian said. His voice sounded broken. We're having twins. The weight of it crashed over Isadora. She was vampire, impregnant, with impossible babies conceived in the moment she did and was reborn. She started laughing, couldn't help it. Caspian looked at her like she was insane. Isadora, I died and came back to life and got pregnant all in one night, she said between laughs. This is the most ridiculous thing that has ever happened to anyone. He smiled, then laughed. Then pulled her into his arms and held her like she was the most precious thing in any world. We're having twins, he whispered against her hair. We're having twins, she repeated. Outside, dawn was breaking. Inside, everything had changed. The next 2 weeks were chaos. Vampire doctors confirmed the pregnancy. Identical twins developing rapidly. 5 months vampire gestation instead of 9 human months. The council found out. Alaric appeared at the penthouse, gold eyes blazing. Hybrid children, do you understand what you've done? Created life, Caspian said coldly. Created a threat. Vampire-human hybrids haven't been born in 200 years. We have no idea what they'll be capable of. They're babies, Isidore said, not weapons. You don't know that. Alaric's expression was grim. The council demands the children be surrendered at birth for evaluation. Absolutely not. Then you're both exiled, stripped of protection, enemies of vampire law. Oh, so be it. Alaric left, but his warning lingered. 2 days later, Silas uncovered something worse. He burst into the penthouse, laptop in hand. We have a problem. Add it to the list, Caspian muttered. Octavia isn't working alone. Silas turned the laptop around. Security footage. Octavia meeting with armed humans. She's hired vampire hunters, planning to kidnap the twins when they're born. Ice flooded Isadora's veins. Why? Hybrid blood. If she can harvest it, she can create daywalker soldiers. Vampires who can walk in sunlight. She'd be unstoppable. She wants to overthrow the council, Caspian realized, and rule both vampire and human worlds. Silas's expression was grim. The twins aren't just targets, they're weapons. Isadora's hand went to her stomach. 2 weeks pregnant, barely showing, but already her children were in danger. What do we do? She asked. Caspian's jaw set. We fight. We gather allies. We protect our family. The council. The council doesn't get a vote anymore. He took Isadora's hand. We're at war. They built an army in 3 months. Caspian called in centuries of favors. Vampire allies across Europe. Some came for loyalty. Some for the promise of change. All came prepared to fight. Silas reached out to hunter networks, the ones who'd abandoned the old ways. Isadora's distant cousins. Families who'd chosen peace over war. They came too. Ava insisted on helping. I'm human. I can be liaison. It's dangerous, Isadora warned. So is having a best friend who's a pregnant vampire fighting a civil war. I'm in. Isadora's pregnancy accelerated. At 4 months, she looked full term. The twins were strong. Growing faster than anyone predicted. The vampire doctors were concerned. Birth could kill you, one said bluntly. Hybrid pregnancies are too rare. We don't know what to expect. Then we prepare for everything, Caspian said. He barely left her side. Protective to the point of suffocating. I can still walk, Isadora said one afternoon. You're carrying our children. I'm also a vampire now, stronger than you give me credit for. I know. He touched her face. I just can't lose you. Not after, you won't. But neither of them could promise that. 5 months in labor started. Too early, too fast, too dangerous. They were in the penthouse when Isadora doubled over. Caspian, he caught her. No, not yet. It's too soon. Tell that to them. Silas called the doctors, set up the emergency medical bay they'd prepared. But before anyone arrived, the attack came. Windows exploded inward. Glass rained like diamonds. Vampires poured through Octavia's forces. Fast, deadly, armed with weapons designed to kill immortals. And behind them, hunters. Guns loaded with silver bullets. Protect Isadora, Caspian roared. The penthouse became a war zone. Caspian fought with the violence of a king protecting his queen, ripping through enemies. Silas at his side. Eva grabbed weapon stakes, silver knives, and fought like someone with nothing to lose. But Isadora was in labor, screaming. The twins were coming. "Get her to the medical bay," one doctor shouted. They tried, but the fight was everywhere. Octavia appeared, red hair wild, eyes blazing. "Give me the children and I'll let you live." "Never," Isadora gasped. "Then die." Octavia lunged. Caspian intercepted. They crashed through walls. Isadora screamed again. The first twin was crowning. "I need to push," she yelled. "Not here," the doctor said. "It's not sterile, I don't care." A rogue vampire got past defenses, aimed a stake at Isadora's heart. Ava threw herself in front, took the stake through her shoulder, went down screaming. Isadora's fury ignited. New vampire, new mother, new power she didn't understand. She stood, labor and all, grabbed the vampire by the throat. And something in her activated some combination of Van Helsing blood and vampire transformation and mother's protective instinct. Her eyes flared, not red like normal vampires, silver. "Stop," she commanded. Every vampire in the room froze, couldn't move, compelled by something stronger than simple vampire magic. Hunter heritage, command ability. No one had seen it in 200 years. Octavia stared. "Impossible." "Get out," Isadora said. Her voice echoed with power. "All of you, leave now." They did, unable to resist, fleeing like puppets on strings. The fight ended. Silence fell. Isadora collapsed. Labor resumed with vengeance. "She's crowning," the doctor shouted. 10 minutes later, the first twin was born. A girl, silver eyes, crying strong and healthy. "Lyra," Isadora gasped. "Her name is Lyra." 5 minutes after that, the boy followed. Amber eyes, quiet, observing everything. "Orion," Caspian whispered. He held both twins like they were made of glass. Tears, actual tears, streamed down his face. Isadora laughed, exhausted, elated, alive. "We did it. You did it." Caspian kissed her forehead. "You saved us all." Eva groaned from the floor. "Someone want to pull this stake out of my shoulder." Silas helped her. "You're insane." "And you're welcome." The vampire doctors checked the twins. Perfect, healthy, hybrid vigor beyond anything recorded. Outside, sirens wailed. The fight had attracted attention. "We need to move," Silas said. "Regroup, figure out what happens next." But for that moment in the wreckage of the penthouse, surrounded by broken glass and battle debris, Isadora held her children and felt something she hadn't felt in 6 years. Complete. The council came 3 days after the twins were born. They arrived at dawn, 7 vampire elders led by Alaric Sterling, his gold eyes hard as coins. The penthouse had been repaired, windows replaced, blood cleaned, but the memory of violence lingered in every corner. Isadora stood in the living room, Lyra in her arms, Orion and Caspian's. The babies were quiet, alert. Their eyes, Lyra's silver, Orion's amber, tracked the elders with uncanny awareness. "Hybrid children," Alaric said. "Not a question, a condemnation." "Our children," Caspian corrected coldly. "They're a threat to vampire law, to the natural order." Alaric's gaze swept over the twins. "They must be evaluated, tested, contained if necessary." "No. You don't have a choice. Council law. Your law nearly got my family killed." Isadora's voice cut through the room. Calm, absolute. "Octavia Ravencroft attacked during my labor. She brought hunters. Weapons. She tried to murder newborns. Where was council law then?" Alaric's expression flickered. "We didn't sanction that attack." "But you created the environment for it." She shifted Lyra higher. "You forbid human-vampire bonds. Demand children be surrendered. Drive people to desperation. That's not law, that's tyranny." "Imo, careful girl." "Queen," Caspian interrupted. His voice dropped to something dangerous. "You will address my mate as Queen Isadora, or you will leave." The air in the room crystallized. One of the other elders, a woman with hair like spun moonlight, spoke. "The boy's right. She defeated Octavia's forces with a power we haven't seen in centuries. Van Helsing command, that makes her formidable." "It makes her dangerous," another elder said. "It makes her valuable," the moonlight-haired woman countered. "While Eric, the old ways are dying, human-vampire relations are inevitable. We can fight it and fracture, or we can adapt." "Lady Morgana makes a point," a third elder said. "The twins are here, they're healthy. Fighting their existence won't change reality." Alaric's jaw clenched. "Fine, then we test the mother. If she proves worthy of walking among us as an equal, if she can pass the trial of shadows, the children remain with her. and the council recognizes the mate bond. And if I fail, Isidore asked. Exile. You Caspian and the children banished from vampire society, no protection, no resources. Caspian moved to protest. Isadora touched his arm, stopped him. I accept, she said. Isadora, I accept, she repeated, looking at Alaric. When 1 month, when the children are strong enough to be left with caretakers. Alaric's gold eyes held hers. 3 trials. Pain tolerance, strategic thinking, combat. Pass all 3 and you're recognized as vampire nobility. Fail even 1 and you lose everything. I understand. The council left. Caspian rounded on her. What were you thinking? That I'm tired of hiding, tired of being treated like a threat instead of a person. She looked down at Lyra. I want our children to grow up in a world that accepts them. If I have to prove myself to make that happen, I will. You could die. I could also win. He stared at her, then exhaled. You're terrifying sometimes. Good, she smiled. I learned from the best. The month passed in a blur of sleepless nights and stolen moments of joy. The twins grew fast. Too fast. At 3 weeks, they looked 2 months old. Vampire-human hybrid vigor, the doctor said. Unprecedented. Lyra laughed early, smiled at everything. Her silver eyes caught light and held it like trapped stars. When she cried, shadows in the room flickered, responding to her distress. Orion was quieter, thoughtful. He watched everything with those amber eyes, absorbing learning. When he was content, sunlight seemed to brighten. When upset, the room cooled. They have powers, Silas observed one afternoon. Already. Is that normal? Eva asked. She'd been staying at the penthouse, helping with the twins, her shoulder healed but scarred. Nothing about this is normal, Caspian said. But he didn't sound worried. He sounded awed. Isadora spent hours just watching them sleep, marveling. She'd thought after Michael she'd never have children. Never have this particular joy of watching small chests rise and fall, tiny fists curled against soft cheeks. Now she had 2. Miracles wrapped in impossible circumstances. At night, when the twins slept and Caspian held her, Isadora let herself feel the fear she hid during the day. What if I fail the trial, she whispered. You won't. You don't know that. I know you. He kissed her temple. I know you survived losing Michael. Survived being turned. Survived giving birth during a battle. You're the strongest person I've ever met in 95 years. You'll survive this too. And if I don't, then we run. Take the twins and disappear. I've lived long enough to know how to vanish. I don't want to run. I know. He tightened his arms around her. So don't fail. She laughed despite her fear. No pressure. The night before the trial, Eva cornered her in the nursery. You're going to be amazing, Eva said. You can't know that. Yes, I can. Because you're Isadora Winters. You rebuilt yourself from ash once. You'll do it again if you have to. Eva hugged her. But you won't have to. Because you're going to walk in there and show every ancient vampire exactly why Caspian chose you. Eva, also I need you to succeed because Silas asked me on a date, and I need relationship advice from someone who's successfully dating a supernatural creature. Isadora pulled back. What? Eva grinned. Surprise, we've been texting. He's sweet. Also half vampire, which I'm trying not to overthink. Eva, point is you started this supernatural dating trend. Now finish it by not dying in some trial. Deal. Isadora laughed, hugged her friend. Deal. The trial of shadows took place in a chamber beneath London. Ancient, carved from stone that predated the city above. Torches burned in iron sconces. 7 elders sat in high-backed chairs watching. Isadora stood in the center. She dressed simply, black pants, dark shirt. Hair pulled back, ready. Caspian wanted to be there. She'd made him stay with the twins. They need you, she'd said. I need to do this alone. Now facing the elders in the flickering torchlight, she wondered if that had been stupid bravado. Alaric stood. Isadora Winters, you seek recognition as vampire nobility, as mate to the Vampire King, as mother to hybrid children. To earn this, you must pass 3 trials. I'm ready. We'll see. He nodded to Lady Morgana. The moonlight-haired vampire approached carrying a crystal vial, dark liquid inside. First trial, pain tolerance. This is concentrated vampire venom. For humans, it's fatal. For new vampires, it's agony. You must endure it without breaking. She uncorked the vial. Isadora held out her arm. Morgana poured the venom on her skin. Fire. Immediate and absolute. like her veins were filled with molten metal. Isadora's vision whited out. Every nerve screamed. She locked her jaw, forced herself to breathe. In through her nose, out through her mouth, like the meditation her therapist taught her after Michael. The pain crescendoed, peaked, held. Isadora didn't scream, didn't fall, stood rigid as carved marble, eyes forward, refusing to break. After what felt like hours but was probably minutes, the pain receded. Morgana nodded. Impressive. First trial passed. Isadora's legs shook. She forced them steady. Second trial, Alaric said. Strategic thinking. You will solve a riddle that has no obvious answer. Failure means you lack the wisdom to guide our kind. An elder stepped forward. Ancient, skin like parchment, voice like wind through graves. A vampire lord has 3 sons. One born of violence, one born of love, one born of necessity. The vampire world fractures, war is coming. He can only save one son. Which does he choose? Isadora's mind raced. Trick question. Had to be. She thought about Caspian, about the twins, about what she'd learned in 5 months of navigating vampire politics. None of them, she said. The elder's eyebrows rose. Explain. A good leader doesn't choose between his children. He finds a way to save all 3. That's what leadership means, creative solutions instead of false choices. If war is coming, he prevents the war, builds alliances, changes the paradigm. She met the elder's gaze. The question is designed to make me choose sacrifice. I choose transformation instead. Silence. Then Lady Morgana smiled. Second trial passed. Alaric's expression remained unreadable. Third trial, combat. You will face a champion of the council's choosing. Defeat them or die trying. A door opened. Octavia Ravencroft walked in. Isadora's blood turned to ice. You, she breathed. Octavia smiled, beautiful and terrible. Surprise, darling, the council gave me a choice: execution or redemption. If I defeat you, I'm pardoned. If you defeat me, I'm exiled forever. She tried to kill my children. And you humiliated me, Octavia hissed. Drove me from your home like a dog. Now we settle it. Properly. The elders watched, silent, waiting. Isadora had trained exactly 0 times for combat. She was a textile conservator, a widow, a new mother. She'd been vampire for 5 months. Octavia had been vampire for 250 years. This isn't a fair fight, Isadora said. No, Alaric agreed, but neither is life. Prove you can survive anyway. Octavia attacked. Fast, brutal, centuries of killing experience in every move. Isadora dodged. Barely. Octavia's claws, actual claws extended for the kill, scraped her shoulder. Drew blood. Too slow, Octavia taunted. She struck again. Isadora blocked. The impact rattled her bones. This was impossible. Octavia was faster, stronger, more experienced. Isadora was going to die here in this stone chamber, leaving her twins motherless. No. The thought ignited something. Isadora stopped defending, started thinking. Octavia was stronger. Fine. Isadora wouldn't fight strength with strength. She was faster. Fine. Isadora wouldn't try to match speed, but Isadora had something Octavia didn't. She had something to fight for. The next time Octavia lunged, Isadora didn't dodge. She stepped into the attack, grabbed Octavia's wrist, and used the Van Helsing command power that had stopped an army. Freeze, she said. Octavia's body locked, unable to move, eyes wide with shock and fury. That's cheating, she spat. That's surviving. Isadora's other hand went to Octavia's throat, not squeezing, just holding. I could kill you right now. Snap your neck. End this. Do it then. No. Confusion flickered across Octavia's face. Because I'm not you, Isadora said quietly. I don't kill out of jealousy or spite. I don't attack mothers in labor. I don't use children as weapons. She released Octavia, stepped back. I choose mercy, because that's what makes me worthy, not power, mercy. She looked at the elders. I win, not by killing her, by being better than her. Octavia collapsed, free from the command, staring at Isadora like seeing her for the first time. Alaric stood slowly. All 3 trials passed. The other elders rose. Lady Morgana stepped forward. Isadora Winters, by right of trial, you are recognized as vampire nobility, as equal among us, as queen to our king. The word landed like thunder. Queen. The coronation will be held in 1 month, Alaric said. His gold eyes held something that might have been respect. Prepare yourself, the entire vampire world will be watching. The month before Coronation was controlled chaos. Dresses designed, guest lists compiled, politics navigated. 1,000 vampires confirmed attendance from across Europe, some from Asia and the Americas, all coming to witness the impossible. A human-turned vampire, a hybrid queen, children who shouldn't exist. The twins grew. At 2 months old, they looked 6 months. Lyra crawled impossibly fast. Orion spoke his first word, mama, and Isadora cried for an hour. Aviva helped plan everything. She and Silas were officially dating. He's perfect, Eva gushed one afternoon. He cooks, he's funny, and when he smiles his eyes go red, which should be creepy, but it's actually kind of hot. I'm happy for you, Isadora said, meaning it. You made this possible, you know that, right? You took the insane risk, paved the path. Now the rest of us get to follow. 3 days before the coronation, Isadora visited Michael's grave. She hadn't been since before meeting Caspian. The cemetery was quiet, rain-washed and green. His headstone was simple. Michael Winters, beloved husband, too brief a life. Isadora knelt, placed white peonies on the grave. I'm getting married again, she said quietly. Well, vampire married, it's complicated. You'd hate the politics but love the person. She smiled through tears. His name is Caspian. He's 95 years old and terrible at cooking, and he makes me laugh. The way you made me laugh. The wind stirred. Leaves rustled. I have children now, twins, a girl and a boy. I wish you could meet them. I wish, her voice broke. I wish a lot of things, but I'm happy, Michael. For the first time in 5 years, I'm happy, and I think you'd want that. She pressed her fingers to the headstone. Thank you for teaching me how to love, for showing me what partnership looks like. I'm using everything you taught me. Every day. She stood. I'll always love you, but I'm choosing to love him too. Both of you. Different kinds of love. Room in my heart for both. Walking back to the car, Isadora felt lighter, like she'd set down weight she didn't know she was carrying. Caspian was waiting. He looked at her tear-stained face and pulled her into his arms. You okay? I am, she said, and meant it. Coronation Day arrived with crisp autumn air and golden light. The ceremony took place in an ancient estate outside London, vampire-owned for 4 centuries, hidden from human eyes by old magic and careful architecture. 1,000 vampires filled the great hall, ancient ones with eyes like winter, young ones with hunger barely controlled, aristocrats in designer suits, warriors in ceremonial armor, all watching as Isadora Winters walked down the aisle. She wore midnight blue, a dress Eva had helped choose, elegant without being ostentatious, powerful without trying. Her hair was down loose waves around her shoulders. Simple jewelry. She didn't need ornament. The woman walking this aisle was statement enough. Caspian stood at the altar. He wore black, his white hair pulled back, eyes silver in the light. When he saw her, his expression cracked into something unguarded. Pure joy. The elders waited. Alaric in the center holding a crown. Not gold, not jewels, something older. Alaric spoke. His voice carried through the room. I'm ready, he said. I'm terrified, she whispered. Perfect. Me too. Alaric spoke. His voice carried through the hall without effort. We gather to witness history. A human who chose immortality. A vampire who chose love. Hybrid children who represent our future. Today we crown not just a queen, but a new era. He turned to Isadora. Kneel. She did. Alaric lifted the crown. Isadora Winters, you have passed the trials, proven your worth. Do you swear to serve vampire kind with wisdom and compassion, to protect both our world and the human one, to bridge what was once separate? I do. Do you accept the weight of this crown, the responsibility, the danger? I do. He placed the crown on her head. The weight was real, solid, grounding. Rise, Queen Isadora Nightshade, first of your kind, mother of hybrids, bridge between worlds. Isadora stood. The hall exploded with a sound. Not applause, vampires didn't clap, but something deeper, a thrumming recognition. Voices raised in ancient acknowledgement. Caspian pulled her close, kissed her in front of everyone. When they broke apart, his eyes shone. My queen, he said, my king. The ceremony continued. Speeches, oaths, presentations from various vampire houses pledging loyalty. Then Alaric raised his hand. Silence fell. One matter remains. Octavia Ravencroft, step forward. A ripple of shock through the crowd. Octavia emerged from the shadows. She wore gray, plain, her red hair dull, eyes downcast. She'd been kept in council custody since the trial, awaiting judgment. You attacked a pregnant vampire, Alaric said, attempted to kidnap hybrid children, conspired with hunters. These crimes warrant execution. Octavia lifted her chin, defiant even in defeat. However, Alaric continued, Queen Isadora has requested mercy. Every eye turned to Isadora. She stepped forward, looked at Octavia. You tried to kill me, Isadora said clearly. Kill my children. You were driven by jealousy and fear, and you deserve punishment. Octavia's expression twisted. But not death, Isadora continued. Death is easy. I'm sentencing you to life, exile to the eternal night realm. You'll live forever in darkness, watching the world change without you, watching Caspian and I build a family, watching hybrid children thrive, your failure immortalized. Octavia's face went white. You wanted forever with him, Isadora said quietly. Now you get forever watching him be happy with someone else. That's justice. Guards came, chains forged from blessed silver. Octavia was led away, her screams echoing through the hall. Isadora watched without flinching. When the doors closed behind Octavia, cutting off the screaming, Alaric nodded slowly. Ruthless mercy, he said. You'll make a fine queen. The celebration lasted until dawn. Vampires danced, drank blood wine, celebrated the impossible made real. Isadora and Caspian slipped away at midnight, back to the penthouse, to the nursery, to their children. Lyra and Orion slept in their cribs. Lyra sprawled, Orion curled tight, both peaceful. They don't know, Caspian whispered, what today meant. They will, Isadora said. When they're older, we'll tell them about trials and crowns and choosing love over fear. He pulled her close. I love you. I know, she smiled. I love you too. Even though I'm a 95-year-old vampire with terrible cooking skills, especially because of that. They stood watching their children sleep. King and queen, vampire and hybrid, two people who shouldn't have worked but did. Outside, London woke, a new day beginning. Inside, a new family already begun. The kitchen of the penthouse smelled like burning eggs. Daddy, Lyra said from her perch on the counter, you're doing it wrong again. But Caspian looked at the smoking pan with exaggerated dismay. I've had 100 years to perfect cooking. Why hasn't it worked? Because you're impatient, Orion said from the table. He was reading as always. Currently a book about quantum mechanics that most adults couldn't understand. You need to wait for the pan to heat evenly. Listen to our son, the genius, Isadora said, sweeping in with coffee. She kissed Caspian's cheek. And step away from the stove before we need to evacuate. I was trying to make breakfast. You made char. But she was smiling. Lyra laughed. At 6 years old, she was all energy and confidence. Silver eyes bright. White blonde hair, Caspian's coloring in wild curls. She wore a yellow sundress because unlike full vampires, she could walk in sunlight without burning. First-generation hybrid perk. Can we go to the park, she asked. Please, after breakfast, Isadora said. But Daddy ruined breakfast. I resent that characterization. It's accurate, though, Orion pointed out. He had Isadora's brown hair and serious expression. His amber eyes, unique to him, studied everything with intense focus. Where Lyra was sunshine and chaos, Orion was thunderstorms and contemplation. The doorbell rang. That's Eva. Lyra leaped off the counter with supernatural grace, ran to the door. Eva entered with Silas. They got married 3 years ago, a vampire-human wedding that made headlines. Eva was still human, Silas still half vampire. They were blissfully happy and aggressively in love in a way that made even century-old vampires roll their eyes. Auntie Eva, Lyra launched herself. Eva caught her. Hey, troublemaker, Orion's still reading books that make my head hurt. Currently, yes. Excellent. Never change. She set Lyra down. We brought bagels since someone, she looked pointedly at Caspian, can't be trusted with cooking. I'm a king. I have people for cooking. You had people, Silas corrected. Now you have a wife who won't let you hide behind staff. She's terrible, Caspian said fondly. I heard that. Isadora emerged from the kitchen with plates. And I'm wonderful. You said so in front of 1,000 vampires. I was under duress. The duress of loving me? Exactly. They ate breakfast together, the makeshift family that had formed from impossible circumstances. Vampire King, hybrid queen, miracle twins, best friend and her half-vampire husband. Afterward, while the adults cleaned, Lyra cornered Isadora. Mommy, she said quietly, why do I have two heartbeats? Isadora paused. They'd been preparing for this question. Hadn't expected it at 6. She knelt, met her daughter's eyes. Because you carry two worlds inside you, baby. Human and vampire, the best of both. Is that why I can go in sunlight, but Daddy can't? Yes. And why Orion can make shadows move? That too. Lyra considered this. Am I special? You're extraordinary. Isadora touched her daughter's face. You and your brother both. You're the first of your kind, and you get to decide what that means. Okay, Lyra brightened. Can we go to the park now? Just like that existential crisis over. Back to 6-year-old priorities. Yes, Isadora laughed. Let's go. They went to the park, all 6 of them. Lyra ran circles around other children, too fast but controlling it. Orion sat under a tree, reading, occasionally making shadow puppets dance for younger kids who watched in awe. Isadora and Caspian sat on a bench. Eva and Silas on another, holding hands like teenagers. You did good, Eva called over. We did good, Isadora corrected. Fine, we're all amazing, you especially. Caspian's arm was around Isadora's shoulders. She leaned into him, watching their children play. What are you thinking, he asked. That 7 years ago I was alone, convinced I'd never love again, never have children, never feel whole. And now I'm a vampire queen with hybrid twins and a husband who can't cook. She smiled. Life is bizarre. Regrets none, Ita. She turned to look at him, really look. The white hair, the storm gray eyes, the face she'd memorized in 1,000 moments. Not a single one. He kissed her, soft and sweet and full of forever. Best swipe right ever, he murmured against her lips. Second best. Second. First was choosing to stay after you told me you were a vampire who drinks green smoothies. He laughed. That surprised rusty sound she loved. Lyra ran over. You're being romantic again. We are, Caspian confirmed. Embarrassing, Lyra declared. But she was grinning. Orion appeared. Statistically, parental affection is healthy for child development. Thank you, Orion, Isadora said gravely. You're welcome. He paused. Can we get ice cream? It's 10 a.m. And Caspian stood. Ice cream it is. I'm a king. I make the rules. You're a pushover, Isadora corrected. But she stood too. They walked to the ice cream shop, an odd little group that drew stares. The two beautiful couple with white and brown-haired children who didn't quite look related. The friends who laughed too loud. The family that shouldn't exist but did. Inside the shop, Lyra ordered strawberry, Orion chocolate, Eva vanilla. Silas tried to flirt with the teenage employee and got elbowed by his wife. Caspian leaned close to Isadora. Do you remember that first night? Which part, the declaration of ownership or the vampire reveal? The part where you didn't run. I remember thinking you were insane. I am. For you. She kissed his jaw. Lucky me. They sat outside with ice cream melting in the autumn sun. Lyra got it everywhere. Orion ate methodically. Eva and Silas shared bites. A normal moment. Painfully perfectly normal. Except it wasn't normal at all. It was magic. The kind of magic that comes from choosing love over fear, from taking impossible chances, from swiping right on someone who offers forever and deciding to believe them. Isadora's phone buzzed. A notification from the dating app she'd never deleted. A memory. 7 years ago today, the message she'd sent Caspian. Isadora Friday. Where Caspian, I'll send a car. Trust me, she trusted him. Against all logic. Against every warning. And it had given her everything. What are you smiling at? Caspian asked. She showed him the phone. His expression softened. 7 years. 7 years, she repeated. From that to this. Would you do it again, knowing what you know now? Isadora looked at her children, at her best friend, at the man who'd waited 95 years and still looked at her like she was the answer to every question. In a heartbeat, she said. Lyra chose that moment to fling ice cream into the air. It had landed in Orion's book. He protested. She laughed. Chaos erupted. Eva jumped in to mediate. Silas made it worse. Caspian tried to restore order with kingly authority that was completely ignored by his 6-year-olds. Isadora watched and felt her heart might actually burst. This was her life now, chaotic and beautiful and completely impossible, and she wouldn't trade a second of it. The video ended. Across America, women leaned back from their screens, some crying, some smiling, some texting friends. In a retirement home in Florida, Margaret, 72, widowed 10 years, opened her dating app for the first time in a decade. In Oregon, Susan, 68, convinced love was over, swiped right on someone who seemed impossible. In Texas, Linda, 75, lonely, decided maybe it wasn't too late. They didn't know about vampires or crowns or hybrid children, but they knew about grief, about fear, about the terror of loving again. And they just watched someone survive all of it, choose all of it, win all of it. The comment section filled. Watching from Montana, age 71. This made me cry. Thank you. North Carolina here, 65 years old. Calling my daughter to help me with dating apps. Texas, 69. I'm going to try again for the first time in 8 years, one after another. Women choosing bravery, choosing hope, choosing to believe that maybe, just maybe, their own swipe right was waiting. The video ended with Isadora's final words, her voice warm, certain, full of earned wisdom. They told me I was broken after I lost my husband. They said vampire love was impossible, that hybrid children were threats. They were wrong about all of it. I wasn't broken. I was waiting, waiting to become exactly who I was meant to be. You're not broken either. You're waiting. And when the right moment comes, when you see that profile, that possibility, that chance, be brave enough to swipe right. Be brave enough to choose love over fear. Because on the other side of that fear is everything. Trust me, I know. The screen faded to black. Then simple white text. If this story touched you, let us know where you're watching from in the comments below. More stories coming soon. This is just the beginning.